Hi beautiful souls, it's Tan back with a Midheaven video here for you. So that was just kind of something that I put together to kind of demonstrate the vibe of the Virgo Midheaven, because I think that the best way to figure out, to get an idea about someone's Midheaven sign is to look at their work. So if you have a Virgo Midheaven, I call you the ultimate energy worker. But first, we need to examine your IC, because as I mentioned in my introduction video, it's more difficult for you to achieve your dreams if you are not in tune with or have a deep awareness of what's pushing you forward. So if you have a Virgo MC, that means that you have a Pisces IC, Pisces, in your 4th house, and your home life was highly Piscean. This IC means that the home that you grew up in was kind of filled with a lot of confusion and delusion, where you were kind of like, oh yeah, that this is what my family was like, but then when you grew up, you're like, wait a minute, that's not what my family was like. Did I think that my family was that particular way? Did I have that idea about them all along? Whoa. But like, you kind of knew they were like that, but having Pisces there on the IC, you would rather paint a picture perfect image of your family home instead of admitting or seeing it for what it really is, until reality hits and you were like, oh, wait a minute, maybe my parents were toxic, or they were abusive, or they were just deceiving me in some ways. The reason why this might have happened is that your parents might have painted for you the picture perfect image of your family and you believed it. So they kind of deceived you, but they didn't really do it consciously. For example, this is just an example. One of your parents might have been toxic and the other parent was kind of trying to cover up for that parent by telling you that they just did things out of love. They're doing it because they love you and they want to protect you and they care about you. So the reality is, no, there are things that shouldn't be done to children. And forgiveness doesn't really make it go away, And I feel like I always emphasize the negative aspects of the IC more than the positive, but it's really in the hardships that we seek to transform. Yes, there's happiness in childhood, but we use that to build our character. But we take the negative experiences of the traumas of our past to find our aspiration, our evolution of a facet of the human psychology, so that we can share our evolutionary journeys with the world. There was very little boundary in your home life, in the relationships between you and your parents, or the parents and, one parent and another parent. So you might have heard your parents saying things to each other that has crossed the line, or maybe they were saying things to you that's crossed the line. The line was just very vague. And sometimes they might be telling you things that you kind of wish they hadn't told you now that you've grown up, because there are certain things that children just don't want to hear. It's not that necessarily that they tell you because it's taboo, it's not Scorpio, but they're kind of, when they tell you certain things, it makes the parent seem weak. So the child, you, then kind of felt like, well, I don't really have a place to fall back onto, because now I have to be the one to be strong for my parent. You kind of almost didn't feel safe, like you had to be the strong one, you had to be their rock. So you were conditioned as a child to forgive others and be forgiven in return. And sometimes the line, the boundary wasn't very clear, so you might forgive people for things that shouldn't really be forgiven at that point, or you might ask for forgiveness for things that you've done that maybe, shouldn't be forgiven at, that point in time. You have a compassionate inner self. You retreat to poetry and music and, your own imaginative world to ground you and anchor you. So the next thing I'm going to tell you is kind of related to human design, if you're familiar with that, and kind of the chakra system. So I actually knew a Pisces IC who, when they were at home, almost kind of had their solar plexus open. So they were very psychic at home, but at the same time, they had their emotional center opened, which means that they were receiving all the emotions of their, people in their family. And sometimes they weren't able to distinguish whose emotions was whose and which one was their emotion. And sometimes they kind of even magnified the emotions of other people. So when they're mature, they're highly psychic, but when not, they're kind of way too emotional about things that can be solved using logic very easily. So if we go back to the midheaven tree, and I call this the midheaven tree, yay! I like the midheaven tree. The root of the Virgo midheaven tree is compassion, forgiveness, and retreat. As you build on these roots, you get older, in your 20s or 30s, depending on each different Virgo midheaven person, you build upwards to the trunk of the tree. So you see, the MC is what you aspire to be in the world based on what you think is most important in life, so that you can make a real contribution. So this becomes the branches and the leaves of the midheaven tree. You as a Virgo midheaven can now see the importance of communicating in a clear, precise, and accurate way. Because you never really had that while you were growing up. There was a lot of misunderstandings, right? So your family was always unclear about their motives, and you realized that they would tell you things to cover up people's misbehaviors, to paint a picture perfect image of your family. You realize that there were consequences to that, so you try not to repeat that, in your life's goals and your aspirations. So you work hard to be the most skilled researcher, writer, speaker, most skilled of them all, as skilled as you can be. A lot of Virgo midheaven women are very, very feminine and kind of innocent because, that Pisces IC is still there. That way of looking at the world with innocent eyes is still there deep inside of them. As the midheaven also indicates your personal capabilities, you as a Virgo midheaven are really highly capable of developing your mental capabilities. You can spend hours and hours on end digging and researching deep into a subject of your interest to come out later and share this discovery with the world. A lot of Virgo midheaven people spend like 2 hours writing a 30-minute post on Facebook and social media, just kind of editing and re-editing and using dictionaries and thesaurus just to get their point across as accurately as possible and to sound as intelligent as they can be. To really figure out what your true vocation is, I'd look to see where Mercury, which rules Virgo, which sign and which house it's placed in, to get a clearer picture. But if we're only looking at the Virgo midheaven, can't really give you a concrete answer about the vocation. Can only probably tell you the kind of working environment that best suits you. So with a Virgo midheaven, you do well in a working environment where you are mentally stimulated. Hard labor is not for you. You don't like chaos, and you aren't as compassionate in the workplace as you are logical, whereas you're kind of more compassionate in the home life, You love, like I said, to spend hours doing research to figure something out on a mental level. Research work of any kind is really suitable for you. Or service work where you can really help people get healthier. Like a physical therapist, a yoga instructor, a nutritionist, or anything that really helps people to get healthier. But kind of using some technical skills and specialization. So That's why I call you the energy worker, because of, you know, the skill of being able to change people's bodily energies. When you feel lost about, you know, your direction in life or the next steps to take, and we all kind of feel like that sometimes, the best thing to do is kind of revert back to your IC, to your roots, to get a clearer sense of what to do next, and to kind of recharge, clear your mind, rejuvenate. What you need to do with a Pisces IC is to get in touch with that spiritual side of you again. So to kind of just meditate, read spiritual books, you know, listen to spiritual lectures, things like that. But it's really more just about letting the mind rest, you know, not judging or criticizing anything, because when you go out into the world, you're going to analyze and criticize a lot. Criticism is not always bad, right? There's like positive criticism, but sometimes it's, you know, it's really just about letting the mind just do nothing. Finding a space in your home where you can really just rest and breathe. And then you can come out and build a stronger trunk for that midheaven tree. So this is going to sound quite morbid, but ultimately this is what the midheaven is. So on your deathbed, right? With a Virgo midheaven, what you need to feel completely fulfilled on your deathbed is to know that you have used the power of your intellect. And this power is almost an energetic kind of power, you know, it's kind of like an energetic surge up to your mind. And you've used this potential to really figure something out in your field of interest that would be of service to mankind. Because maybe there's like a gap or a blind spot in a particular field of study that only you can really figure out. Because once that blind spot has been opened, or once the gap has been filled, then you can present this research to the world, and people can be healed from this blind spot that was holding them back all along. So that's my interpretation of the Virgo midheaven. If you have a Virgo midheaven, this is an interesting placement. Please leave a comment below. Let me know what your aspirations and dreams and career involves, or if you know anyone who has this placement, then what that's like for them. And of course, if you are new and haven't subscribed, then please hit the subscribe button, turn on your notifications, and I'm gonna see you in the next video. Bye bye. Have a beautiful day.